WAS Pickens Jackson.
We sing a driving song.
There's not going to be any singing around here. Just
real sports.
On the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
Oh, this is going to be sweet.
And it's all right here, right now on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
th day of January 2024. Welcome in. It is the Afternoon Drive, streaming on the zone1059.com. Hope you're doing well on a Thursday, day number 2 down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for the MAAA Athletic Administrators Association meetings. This will be the last day down here back in studio tomorrow. We're brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play today. As, of course, you can get all your playoff action at Ameristar Casino, college basketball, the NBA, and more with our good friends at Ameristar. Of course, remember 4 great restaurants to serve you on the property. Also, a lot of slots, table games, and more. You got the Bottleneck Blues Bar on the weekends as well. 601-897-1059. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. ecmalone.com is their website. 8337-MALONE. Commercial, residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. And you can always text the show, 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Make your house a home today with Cowboy Maloney's. 30 locations around the state. Online at cowboymaloney's.com. And, of course, we're on Twitter. Now X at Jake Wim. That's brought to you by Clinton Body Shop. 2 locations to serve you there in Clinton and Richland. OEM factory certified. All the manufacturers you trust at Clinton Body Shop. We'll have Brett Beard in with us at 3:30. We'll talk a little Alabama-Auburn. This transfer portal deal just continues to roll downhill for Alabama. Massive exodus in Tuscaloosa. Bobby Hall will join us at 4 o'clock. Bobby Hall is down here and was inducted into the MAAA Hall of Fame today. Wonderful career for Bobby Hall. We'll talk to Coach Hall about that. Also, Raphael Esparza at 4:30. And then we'll also catch up with Tom Gladney, who was also inducted into the 2024 MAAA Hall of Fame. Beeb, how in the world are you? How's the weather back in Jackson? I'll get that official weather update as we move along. All right, we got some other stuff to get into as we move along here. I want to say thanks to CDFL as well. Engineers and architects, as they have really teed us up this week. We want to say thanks to those guys. Also, Musco Lighting and BSN Sports. What's next for Alabama? We jumped into some of this yesterday. We'll carry on with this, kind of looking at some other coaches around the circuit. Excuse me, and really kind of trying to see, there's no way to know which way this whole thing with Kalen DeBoer is going to go. You look at the mass exodus of talent, and that's not going to help. Alabama's still going to be extremely talented, but we'll get into that. 9 Arizona football players have entered the transfer portal in the past 30 minutes. Now, this was yesterday, last night, almost 20 hours ago. Among the group was running back Jonah Coleman, who tallied 1,154 yards and 6 touchdowns this past season. So he is in the transfer portal along with 9 Arizona football players after Jed Fish left that program for Washington. Alabama cornerback or defensive back Antonio Kite has committed to Auburn, so he'll stay in state, but he's going to go play for the other school in the state, Alabama to Auburn. Also, Jerry Glanville. If you remember Jerry Glanville, he's still coaching. I had no idea that Jerry Glanville was still coaching. Defensive coordinator at Division II Northwestern Oklahoma State. Glanville, 82, has 57 years of coaching experience, including 8 years in the NFL. He joins the Rangers, who were 1-10 last year. South Alabama offensive coordinator Major Applewhite is promoted to the Jags head coach, replacing Kane Womack, who just left for the D.C. job at Alabama. So Major Applewhite will be the head football coach at South Alabama. Former New Mexico State coach Jerry Keel joins Vanderbilt as I like this title here, Chief Consultant to the head coach and offensive advisor. So I hope he brings with him some smoke. He is going to be bringing a quarterback. Diego Pavia transfers into Vanderbilt from New Mexico State. Also, Dan Wetzel reports the U.S. Department of Justice has joined the Attorney General of Ohio and 10 other states in a lawsuit against the NCAA that would allow for players to transfer more than once without penalty. You've got the Department of Justice in on this now, the Attorney General of Ohio, and others in this case. It says Columbus, Ohio, in a show of support for competition in the labor market, the U.S. Department of Justice today joined the multi-state lawsuit led by Ohio Attorney General David Yost that challenges the NCAA transfer eligibility rule as an illegal restraint on college athletes' ability to sell their image and likeness and control their education. Also signing on today were the states of Minnesota, Mississippi, and Virginia, and the District of Columbia, bringing the total number of attorney generals who are backing litigation to 11. Quote, there is strength in numbers, said Yost, whose office filed the lawsuit on December 7th in the U.S. District Court of Northern District, of West Virginia. The case would never have come to pass had many players not been sidelined by the NCAA's arbitrary and unfair rule. We're fighting for better competition and long-term change. So Mississippi's in on this as well. As Ross Dellinger reports on this, the 11th congressional hearing of college athletics is over. The hearing, unlikely like many of the others, was specifically focused on a draft from a bill from Congress from Ted Cruz and Cory Booker to get this thing done today, and that was pretty much the reason to be there. Today, Texas recruiting insider George Hamilton has logged a prediction for the Longhorns to land Alabama transfer tight end Amari Niblick. So, again, Texas is pillaging Alabama as well. So Niblick is off to Texas to play for Steve Sarkisian. Also, Miami tight end Cam McCormick has announced he will return for his 9th season of college football. We'll get into this story. It's a wild story. He was in the same recruiting class as Jalen Hurts and Nick Bosa, and he is still playing college football, which is absolutely wild. Also, Georgia and Ohio State are the teams to watch for Alabama defensive back in transfer Caleb Downs. The Dogs currently have the upper hand per Pete Nakos. So, you're looking at Ohio State or Georgia going to get a big Alabama player there in the defensive backfield. He loves Michigan, but the NFL, he loves that too, so we'll have to see. John Harbaugh speaks on Jim Harbaugh's pending decision at Michigan, so we will get into that story as well. And when you kind of get caught up on the latest transfer portal news, late cycle pain for Alabama, Washington, and Arizona. Texas A&M has somewhat of a roster reload going on. Texas reworked their wide receiver room, unbelievably well. We'll get into that. Florida State's Alabama takes, and the new faces in familiar places. We'll get into this courtesy of 247. When you look at the overall best players since the transfer portal's kind of been going on over the last few years anyway, Caleb Williams is going to stack up at the top, even though, we talk about some of the negative connotation with him wanting this from the draft or that from the draft. Caleb Williams is a really good football player. Goes from Oklahoma to USC, rated number 1 on 247sports.com. Quinn Ewers, Ohio State to Texas, number 2. Travis Hunter, Jackson State to Colorado. We'll see what kind of a season he has coming up out in Colorado. This will be his last year likely in college. Caleb Downs in the transfer portal. Don't know where he's going to go yet. Caden Proctor, Alabama. Don't know where he's going to go. Walter Nolan listed at number 6. He's headed to Ole Miss. Jahmyr Gibbs, Georgia Tech, played at Alabama. Jordan Addison, Pittsburgh to USC. Adonis Mitchell, Georgia, over to Texas. And then, of course, you got 2 more here. Isaiah Bond, Alabama to Texas. And then Evan Stewart, Texas A&M to Oklahoma. That's kind of your 10 best that have done this through this, 2 or 3 year cycle. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. We've got all kinds of games going on this weekend. It is NFL Super Weekend number 2, so to speak. We'll have Raphael Esparza on at 4:30 to talk about that when you get kind of caught up on the lines for the weekend. Houston at Baltimore, still a 9.5-point advantage in favor of the Ravens. They are minus 9.5, the total at 43.5. Green Bay at San Francisco. San Francisco's a 9.5-point favorite. That total sits at 50.5. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit is a 6.5-point favorite, and that total sits at 49. And then Kansas City at Buffalo. Buffalo is a 3-point favorite. That total is 45.5. So that's your 4 games this weekend in the National Football League. We got some other stories that we'll get into, like a major front runner for Bill Belichick's service. His services has emerged, and barring a snag, this very well could happen. We'll get into that story. And grading second-year college coaches from Billy Napier to Kalen DeBoer, which obviously second-year coach at Washington, now first-year coach at Alabama. And the ACC seeks to block Florida State from league affairs, an amended complaint as school explores an exit strategy, an exit option. So the battle between the ACC and Florida State continues to churn, continues to move forward, and it is not getting any better. And I just don't know that this is a quote-unquote marriage that can be repaired between Florida State and the ACC. 601-995-10, 601-897-1059, 897-1059. And former Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury, a senior offensive analyst and quarterbacks coach at USC, is expected to interview for the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator job, per sources. Kingsbury, his USC quarterback Caleb Williams, is expected to receive strong consideration there as well. So we saw Cliff Kingsbury parlay Kyler Murray to an NFL job, and it looks like he may do the same thing with Caleb Williams as well. We're brought to you by Malone Roofing Services. ecmalone.com is their website. 8337-MALONE. Commercial roofing and residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. 8337-MALONE. We're down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Timeout on the floor. Brett Beard coming up in 20 minutes.
.com for details.
It's time to get
Back in the game
with Jake Wimberly and the Afternoon Drive.
That's entertainment.
On the station that specializes in the Mississippi sports you love.
Now we're talking.
Live and local on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Thursday edition of the program brought to you by BCI. Go to bcipeople.com or call 601-427-4185. Begin your protection plan today for managed IT services, data backup solutions, ransomware protection, and more. We'll have Brett Beard coming up in the next segment. Right now, let's go to the Malone Roofing call line. MP is on line one. MP, happy Thursday.
Hey, Brother Jake. Listen, haven't heard much. I know y'all may have mentioned it. I haven't. I just tuned in. But haven't heard much about Arch Manning. What his decision is going to be. I was thinking he didn't or couldn't afford to stay and sit on the bench another year and wait for him to decide what to do. So, I mean, I was thinking that he would transfer to someone where a big school where he could start immediately and play, 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, Arch Manning, if you looked at some things on Arch Manning, he's at Texas with even like a guy like Arch Manning. He could use last year's as basically a red shirt, and I believe I'm right on that. Let me see how many snaps he took last year, how many games he played in. But let's just say for the sake of this argument, he's red shirts last year. This would be his first year. Then he'd still have 3 to play. So, and Quinn Ewers, this will be the last year at Texas. So we'll see what happens with him. But as of right now, he is and he only played in 2 games last year. So he essentially redshirted last year. So right now, everything's safe and sound for him at Texas.
Yeah, definitely. But, he could pretty much go anywhere he wanted to and possibly start immediately. He could probably even compete at Ole Miss. But anyway, I was just checking in on it, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. 601-897-1059 if you got a question or you got a comment on something. There is back right before the end of the year, Arch Manning addressed transfer rumors out there. He says, quote, "I haven't looked into transferring at all." He said to CBS Austin's Bob Ballou, "I'm just focused on developing and helping this team win in any way I can, and hopefully one day playing for the University of Texas like I always or I've wanted to do since I got here." So, at least right now it looks like everything is set in stone that he'll stay at Texas, but everything could change. And right now the transfer portal window is closed until after spring practice, and that'll be that short window. And, I don't know that he would jump in there necessarily at the end of that either. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Beav, anything on your end of the world I need to catch up on?
Well, let's see here. Sorry, I'm distracted by Aubrey in here.
Oh,
yeah. AP sighting. Let's see. Yeah, first. Nope. Can't read that one. And more bully. That's very rude. So, nope, neither one. We're all called up.
Well, very good. Thank you, more bully, and a text that we cannot read. Florida State saw 2023 costs soar ahead of the ACC exit fight. And this courtesy of Sportico. Florida State University says it spent $172 million on athletics in 2022 and 23, a $22 million spike from the previous year. However, the Seminoles' revenue did not keep pace over that same period of time, increasing only by $9 million from $161 million to $170 million. In light of this, Florida State's athletics reported ending the 2023 fiscal year with an overall deficit of $2.5 million, having previously claimed a $10.4 million surplus in fiscal year 2022. It's the latest lens on a Seminoles program that has been very vocal about financially falling behind its rivalries and rivals in other conferences. Florida State is currently suing to get out of the ACC in hopes of landing in a richer league, and the school's also in talks with raising private equity funds to bridge the revenue gap. These Florida State numbers, or FSU numbers, come from the school's NCAA membership financial reporting disclosures, which Sportico obtained through public records request. It is not entirely clear from the report what constituted the sharp increase in costs, a sizable chunk of which, $49 million, was attributed to, quote, other operating expenses. So when you kind of look at Florida State, this kind of sheds a little bit of a light why they're, obviously they're in the hole $2.5 million this past year. They're wanting out. They want more revenue. They kind of have the Patrick Ewing effect here, or mentality. Hey, we make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money too. Florida State athletics expenses and revenues, again, you can see a drastic jump. Football and non-football. Football obviously runs the show there as it does everywhere. $150.8 million in 2021-22, and then $172.1 million in 22-23. That's expenses. The revenue, again, $161.1 in 21-22. The revenue jumped again another $7 million, or right at it, $169.6 in 22-23. But again, more expenses. Even though you had more revenue, the expenses drove that higher. On the positive side of the ledger, Florida State saw a particularly notable increase in football revenue thanks to, in part, to bowl money, and a big jump in a year-over-year ticket sales from $15.1 million in 21-22 to $22.8 million in 22-23. In all, the school's football-related revenue was $91 million last fiscal year as compared to $78 million the previous year. However, the cost of fielding its football program also increased dramatically from $54.6 million to $75.6 million. So just a little news there on Florida State and why you may be seeing them beat the drum, so to speak, to get out of the ACC and try to make that happen. Miami tight end Cam McCormick announces he will return for an unprecedented 9th year in college football. This is a wild story. Miami tight end Cam McCormick has made a decision on the 2024 NFL Draft and says he opts to return to school for the 24 season rather than enter the pro ranks. His decision means he'll be returning to college for an unprecedented 9th year after spending the first seasons of his career at Oregon. He announced the news on his Twitter account. McCormick transferred to Miami ahead of the 2023 season, where he had somewhat of a limited impact for the Hurricanes. McCormick recorded 8 catches for 62 yards while appearing in all 13 games and started 11 of them. He initially joined the Oregon program in 2016 and received a few additional years of eligibility thanks to various injuries and COVID-19. Prior to enrolling at Oregon, Cam McCormick was a three-star prospect and the number 470th overall recruit in 2016 in that class. And that is according to On3.com. He also checked in at number 27 on the tight end list that year as well, number 4 player from the state of Oregon. The 2024 NFL Draft, of course, will be held in Detroit, Michigan, with the first round on Thursday, April 25th. So 9 years. I mean, this guy has seen a lot go on. You think about 9 years in college. I can't even imagine it. I just cannot imagine 9 years in college. 2024 NFL Power Rankings for the quarterbacks, with the quarterbacks that are left in the NFL playoffs. You have, just a handful now. Josh Allen, number 1 on this list by CBSSports.com. Patrick Mahomes, number 2, right there with him as well. Lamar Jackson, number 3. Now, again, this is we've seen Mahomes play. We saw Allen play. Lamar Jackson back in action. We'll see what he does this weekend. I would actually have him at number 1. Lamar at number 3. Brock Purdy at number 4. He's back in action this weekend. C.J. Stroud at number 5. Jordan Love at number 6. Jared Goff, number 7. And Baker Mayfield checks in at number 8. So in Baker Mayfield, boy, he's playing for a big check this weekend. Really, really big check this weekend if somehow they could get a win. I don't think it's going to happen. And again, if you go over to AmeriStarCasino.com /Vicksburg, you will get the odds on that game. That game right now, 9.5 is the San Francisco 49ers favorite over the Green Bay Packers. That total is at 50.5. We're brought to you by A1 Gear and Auto, your hometown vehicle specialist. Anything under the hood, front end to back, radiators, engines, starters, alternators, heat. Very important this time of year. Also, rear differentials, rings, and pinions, 601-939-1060. Brett Beard coming up in the next segment. Back in a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The time has come to go back.
Back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly. The hottest sports stories of the day.
For one of those moments that only happens
right here.
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're streaming on the Zone1059.com. It is the afternoon driver on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for the MAAA Athletic Administrators Association Conference with the MHSAA and the MAC. Glad to be here with you today. We're also brought to you by Sound Communications, online at soundcomav.com. Collaborate, design, and build. Brett Beard, a part of the Boo Moo and Bug Show in the great state of Alabama, 12 to 2 every weekday. He is on your radio. Brett, welcome in, sir. How you doing?
Jake, I'm doing fine. I was telling Ben, it's been an amazing week. Today's our first day back on the air. The Shoals area received 4 to 7 inches of snow, along with freezing rain and ice. And our producer literally, our Ben could not get to the station for 3 days. All of the roads have been closed, but we're warm and safe, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope you guys, that ends sooner rather than later. That's never fun to have that much ice and snow and be kind of locked in like that. Speaking of locked in or locked out, however you want to frame it up, Kalen DeBoer is having a little bit of a problem with the transfer portal in Alabama. When you look at the exodus, shall we say, of Alabama players, are you surprised by this?
I'm surprised at the sheer number. Now, I knew they were going to lose quite a bit of players because Alabama was quite significantly over the 85 limit. I think now they're down to 83. Some of these guys I thought because of sheer numbers would, and again, Alabama had lost 15 players before Nick Saban announced that he was retiring. And again, a lot of these kids were going to move on because of a numbers game. They were on the depth chart. But when you start losing starting players such as a Caden Proctor, he's probably going back to Iowa or Ohio State. Caleb Downs, I think the best defensive player in the country, may be going to either Georgia or Ohio State. Alabama certainly trying to see if they can get him back. And so much of this is involved in pay for play. I understand the disappointment. You come to school wanting to play for a legendary coach. But to answer your question, I knew a lot of this was coming, but the barrage that Alabama's experienced in the last 3 or 4 days, including such key players, yes, that's been a little bit of a surprise.
Brett Beard talking Alabama Exodus on your radio Thursday edition of the program. And, Brett, when you look at Auburn, though, I mean, Auburn, it looks like they have done at least a decent job in the transfer portal. How do you kind of rate what they've done so far up to this point?
I think they've been able to stem the tide, pardon the pun. Now, they lost what I thought was 2 key players. We talked to Jason Caldwell of Inside the Auburn Tigers on our show today, and it surprised him that linebacker Cam Riley is going to move on. Donovan Kaufman is gone. Those are really 2 key players. Now, again, there were quite a few of the players. They literally announced late yesterday that Derek Nix, as you well know, coming from Ole Miss, they're going to promote Ken Austin as the quarterback's coach. They're still waiting on Chris Kiffin as a possible defensive coordinator. He's with the Texans, and they've got to wait until the weekend and see how that comes out. DJ Durkin's name's been thrown away around for a lot of schools, a former Maryland coach who had some issues. But they have been able to slow this down a little bit. Now, they picked up Antonio Kite, who was in Alabama for a couple of seasons there, and Charles Kelly was his coach, or basically he recruited him at Alabama, so now he's at Auburn. But to answer your question, they're going to still have some that come and go. They actually added the safety, Jaron Thompson, a 4-year contributor at Texas. But I think they're going to theirs, I think, is just going to be a slow leak from now on. I asked him about Will Rogers, who you're more than familiar with, about the possibility. He's been linked to Auburn or one of 6 teams, whatever it is, that Will Rogers may be interested in. And Jason mentioned, well, I think Will Rogers wants Auburn more than Auburn wants Will Rogers. And you know more about that than I do, but I think they've been able to stem the flow. They may still probably lose a couple more, but they've been bringing in more than they've lost in the last couple of weeks.
Speaking of quarterbacks, with Robbie Ashford now gone to South Carolina, will they look to the portal, that would be Auburn, for another quarterback, or is this Peyton Thorne's team next year or this year coming up?
Well, yeah, everything we've been told that they're going to stay with Peyton Thorne through the spring. That's going to be a key spring for him. Now, again, if you've got a starting quarterback who threw for less than 100 yards 5 times last year, that obviously can't continue. And I mentioned on your show last time I was on it, the way they look at the transfer portal for quarterbacks, to get a high-caliber quarterback, you're going to have to shell out $1 million. And they would rather spread that money around and try to make the pieces around Peyton Thorne better. But it's going to depend upon the spring. If Thorne has a good spring, he has a good spring game, they're going to probably stay with him and try to make the offensive line and the receivers better. But if he struggles again in the spring, I think Hugh Freeze is going to look for somebody else.
Brett Beard on your radio, Thursday edition of the program, talking Alabama and Auburn sports. Speaking of Auburn, Brett, while I got you on here real quickly, 4-0 in conference play in basketball, 15-2, off to a great start on the hardwood.
They're playing really well. Boy, is that ever going to be quite a game between Alabama and Auburn in Tuscaloosa next Wednesday. But Bruce Pearl probably has more depth, and they've got Ole Miss on Saturday than he's had ever since his Final Four team. Jalen Williams has really come into his own. He scored 21 points against Vanderbilt. Cardwell, another big. Auburn has everything. They've got size, strength, and depth in the point, in the front line, and then they've got really a lot of depth at guard. This is a Auburn team to be reckoned with, but they've got Ole Miss Saturday, Alabama Wednesday, and Mississippi State a week from Saturday. That's a gauntlet for them. We'll find out a lot more about Auburn in the next 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the league, at least in the early going, I mean, Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, you look at Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, you go all the way down even to Mississippi State and maybe Florida. I mean, you could argue this is as deep as the league has been in quite some time, maybe ever.
Yeah, Jake, I've been hearing 8 to 9 teams. And again, we've heard that before in the SEC. It gets down to the final 2 weeks of the season, and two or three of these guys fall by the wayside. But Chris Beard has done wonders for Ole Miss. Alabama beat Mississippi State Saturday night. Tulu Smith, it makes them a very good team. Florida, I believe, is much improved. Georgia is much improved. With Paris and South Carolina, they look like a different team. Alabama's facing Tennessee Saturday in Knoxville. And Dalton Knecht has been averaging 33 points a game for the last 3 games. No question, this is a very deep and talented league.
Brett, we appreciate your time. Make sure to find him on X. Also, check out their show, 12 to 2, the Booming and Bug Show, each day, Monday through Friday in the great state of Alabama. Brett, I hope everything dries out over there and it gets a little warmer, and I hope everybody's well.
Thank you, bud. Always enjoy the visit.
Same here. Appreciate it. Brett Beard on your radio talking Auburn and Alabama. And again, Auburn, Alabama 4-0 in SEC play in basketball. They'll play next week. Auburn 15-2. Right there, Ole Miss 15-2. But the Tigers undefeated, in league play and look to stay that way. Alabama and Auburn, the only two teams in the league that are undefeated. We're brought to you by Cowboy Maloney's. You can text us 601-885-3776. Make your house a home today with Cowboy Maloney. 70 years in the business, Mississippi-owned and operated, largest appliance inventory in the state. We're going to take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll carry on. Bobby Hall at the top of the hour number 2, coming up.
.com.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's talking about anything and everything that's Mississippi sports.
No, great afternoon.
Right here on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online worldwide on The Zone 1059.com.
Appreciate Brett Beard jumping on your radio. We are brought to you by our friends at Gutter Masters, online at guttermastersllc.com. Get protected today, 601-503-7755. Custom gutter solutions from our team at Gutter Masters. We'll have Bobby Hall coming up momentarily in the next segment. Also, Raphael Esparza at 4:30, and we got some other interviews tagged up for you here, or teed up for you here today as the MAAA Hall of Fame inductees today, Tom Gladney and Bobby Hall. And when you look at the Hall of Fame members, and the Mississippi Athletic Administrators Association Hall of Fame was established in 2017 to recognize and honor the outstanding careers of our deserving athletic administrators through the state of Mississippi. The date that they have honored, to date they've honored 13 very distinguished and deserving athletic administrators. This year they honor some more as well. So you get back, started out with Lynn Callahan, 2017, N.Z. Bryant, 2018, Ennis Proctor, 2018, Roy Garcia, 2019, along with William Pop Allen, 2019. 2020 saw two inductees, Jerry Alexander and Robert Turnage. Also Lonnie Tillman, 2021, Karen Green, 2021. In 2022, you had Lynn Moore and Woody Barnett. David Bradbury in 23, also Stanley Miller, 23, and your 24 inductees, Tom Gladney and Bobby Hall. Beaver, anything on your end we need to catch up on?
Yeah, let's see. Text here from Tommy Anaheim. Says, I've heard of the 5-year plan, but a 9-year plan? Dang.
That is wild. What are your thoughts on that? How do you get, I don't even know how you get 9 years. I mean, I know that there's the COVID year and there's, this appeal to the NCAA, 9 years.
I'm going to be real honest.
Wild.
Aubrey just left, so I didn't get to hear any of that conversation. I don't know who you're speaking of.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. All right, so we go back up here. Miami tight end Cam McCormick announces he's returning for another year to college. This will be his 9th season. He started out with Oregon. This guy was in the same recruiting class with Jalen Hurts and Joey Bosa. But he initially joined Oregon in 2016. He received a few additional years of eligibility to various injuries and COVID-19.
9 year. You know what? That's so ridiculous sounding that I like it. I support this man.
Very well. He needs it.
And we can't say kid. He is a man. He's a grown man now at this point.
He is a grown man playing college ball.
Possum Neck Joe says, Brock Heward, whose brother coaches for USC, is warning teams to stay away from Caleb Williams. Bears would be crazy to trade Fields and take him number 1.
There's just a lot of smoke around Caleb Williams. And I don't know if you heard this or not, if you were talking to Aubrey. Looks like Cliff Kingsbury could be in the running for the offensive coordinator job at the Bears.
Yeah, I did see that mentioned.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as Kingsbury is a coordinator, I think he's a good coordinator. Just doesn't need to be in charge.
I would agree with that.
Well, that'll catch us up on the text.
All right, 601-885-3776. If you want to text us, that is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. We're brought to you by Maristar Casino. Get out and play today. Keith Hardy on your radio. Tomorrow, again, 4 NFL games coming up this weekend. You've got a lot of stuff that you can play. Click on several NBA games. You've got 2, 4, 5 that you can play today in the National Basketball Association. Also, college basketball is out there for the weekend. So you should have a really good time, of course, if you're in the sports betting market. And a lot of boxing on Saturday. If you like the fisticuffs and the hand-to-hand combat, shall we say. All right, let me move over here. All right, so it looks like Ian Rappaport. Let me go back over here and pull this report from Ian. Ian Rappaport on Bill Belichick, because it looks like things are moving pretty pure with Bill Belichick right now. And, first, former Titans coach Mike Vrabel is in L.A. today interviewing for the Chargers head coaching job, per sources. It's the first known interview for Vrabel, 48, who was 54-45 with 3 playoff trips and 6 seasons with the Tennessee Titans. Also, a little bit more NFL news here from Ian Rappaport. I'm trying to find the one on Bill Belichick. Let's see here. There it is. Falcons CEO Rich McKay and General Manager Terry Fontenay are among those who will be with Arthur Blank in a meeting with Bill Belichick. And, of course, he's set to have his second interview with the Falcons this week. Beaver, do you think Bill Belichick is headed to Atlanta?
That is just too weird of a fit for me.
It is weird.
And, Belichick's problem has been the quarterback spot since Tom Brady left. Well, you're going to walk into a situation with Desmond Ridder and Heineke. Those are your quarterbacks. I assume they would draft one, but still, in Atlanta, when you have no quarterback, you're just going to repeat. I think they're just going to repeat the same thing that just happened with Mac Jones in New England if he were to go there.
I think you're probably right. I just, that doesn't seem like that's a good fit. But, I mean, again, who am I? So that is happening. Also, it looks like the Cowboys are going to stay with Mike McCarthy. We do have, I can't remember who it was in the media that said Dak Prescott's basically Tony Romo reincarnated. So we will get to that story. Roger Goodell, once again, claims NFL officiating is great, and fans once again disagree. So, last year during the playoffs, Roger Goodell told the media, quote, "For us, when you look at the officiating, I don't think it's ever been better in the league." Many NFL fans wondered what actually Goodell had watched this year. In many opinions of fans, NFL officiating has only somehow managed to get even worse. Not that you would have known it if you listened to Roger Goodell. This week during a Q&A session with Mike Tirico while promoting the 2024 NFL Draft in Detroit, the NFL commissioner was asked about the state of officiating. Quote, "We spent the last 5 minutes backstage talking officiating," Tirico said, causing Goodell to have himself a bit of a belly laugh. Quote, "And it's been a big point of contention for every fan, right?" Tirico asked the crowd to a smattering of applause. But on all seriousness, quote, "I said this to the commissioner, and I'm happy to say it publicly. When we broadcast a game, we're not perfect. Quote, I blew 2 identifications this weekend, called the wrong player. Analysts are not perfect, and coaches aren't perfect. Quarterbacks aren't perfect. They throw incompletions, and, running backs aren't perfect either. Tirico then tossed a complimentary word salad to Goodell, opening the door for him to talk about officiating. Quote, "The league works at it all the time to try to get it right. And that's the appreciation, I think, folks involved in the business, involved in community, involved in trying to get a better product. And it's not going to work, or shall we say, make it better. I think at every level we're working to do that." So Goodell, again, he's not going to throw his officials under the bus. He's not going to say anything that is going to put them in a bad light. So that's Roger Goodell. And, again, you talk about Roger Goodell, a guy that's not extremely popular amongst his fans, but a multi-billion-dollar sport. And, again, we'll get more news on Bill Belichick. Also, there's a story out here we'll get into later. Should NIL collectives be considered athletes' employers? This is from Sportico as we continue to dissect in the conversations nationally about NIL, transfer portal, and the collectives and everything that's going on in college sports. And Ross Bjork outlines keys to a strong, speaking of NIL fundraising at Ohio State. We're at the IP, day number 2 of the MAAA Athletic Administrators Association meetings. And, of course, today, and then, of course, they'll have a few sessions in the morning, and this thing will they'll put a bow on it. Adam Johnson will join us at some point before the end of the show. Bobby Hall at 4 o'clock. Raphael Esparza at 4:30, and we have a couple other interviews here, one at 5:15 with Ted Gladney as well. But again, MAAA Hall of Fame members, 2 more added today, and that was Bobby Hall, legendary football coach here in the state of Mississippi, and then Tom Gladney, legendary baseball man in his own right. We're brought to you by Matt Timms, 601-594-3540. Let the MT Insurance Group shop for a quote on your auto, home, or business in 2024. Time out on the floor. When we come back, Bobby Hall on your radio.
Indeed.
The number you have reached.
WRKS Pickens Jackson. From college football to the NFL to high school football. 365 days a year. Hear it all on Jackson Sports Authority. Live and local at 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com. Now let's get back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly.
Thursday edition of the program. Glad to be with you at the IP Casino down here with the MHSAA and the MAAA Athletic Administrators Association as we kick off as we've been doing since yesterday, 2024. Kind enough to give some time. MAAA Hall of Fame inductee 2024, Bobby Hall. Coach Hall, it's an honor to be sitting across from you. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you, and it's an honor for me to be here.
Hey, congratulations on the Hall of Fame induction. When you say Mississippi high school football, you're one of the first names that come to mind. Obviously, you got South Panola. You got the big programs that have come through. But when you talk coaches, you talk to other coaches that have come after you, they all reference your life, your career, what you have done for Mississippi high school football, and that shows up here today with the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. I'm honored that you would say that. I'm somewhat humbled that you would say that. I did it for 40 years, something that the only thing I ever wanted to do. As when I was 14 years old, I knew what I wanted to do. And so, I had great passion for it, and consequently I put a whole lot into it, and God gave me a gift to be able to get people to do what I want them to do, and he gave me great passion. So, it worked out good, and we had a lot of success, and I'm grateful.
Take us back to the beginning. Like you said, you wanted to do this when you were 14. 14 years old, I know exactly where I want to be. I know where God wants me to be, and this is what I'm going to do. The game has changed so much. Talk about that. And, we saw this with Nick Saban last week when he retired, and talking a little bit about the evolution of football, having to adjust and do. That's something that always happens with football, isn't it?
Okay. College football, I'll start out with it. College football in the very near future under the current setup, and I'm not Nostradamus by any stretch of the imagination, but under the current setup, it won't be long before college football will evolve to just the people that have a lot of money, because it's all about money now, and there's no cap, there's no, it's actually professional sports at the college level.
Yeah.
And so, and it's not, there's certain schools that obviously just have more money than other schools, and it's always been that way. So it's as uneven a playing field right now as it's even more uneven, I think, than it was back in the 60s and 70s when Oklahoma and Alabama and people like that were signing 150 people or whatever they were signing.
Sure.
They signed as many as they wanted to. And that created a very uneven playing field. If you remember, the NCAA reduced the scholarships till they eventually got it down to 85, and it evened things back up again. So, hopefully something will be done about it, and if they don't, we'll all move on and live and be happy and live our lives and roll on with it.
Bobby Hall on your radio, 2024 inductee to the MAAA Hall of Fame, talking college football and, of course, football and his career. Coach, when you look at the high school ranks, I don't know that we envisioned this, but, you can go back. I graduated high school in 1994, MHSAA guy down in Rankin County, and I can remember it was interesting just to see your name in the paper if you just scored a touchdown or something. Now we've got live streams, we've got radio coverage, we've got events like this where administrators and coaches get together. High school football has come a long way in the state.
It's unbelievable the way, the things that, when I received my award just a few moments ago and I talked about, some of the all sports trophies that we won at different schools. And one year at Amory High School, we were a 3A school, and they didn't have the different classifications then. And Amory finished third in the state behind Tupelo and Madison Central. It was Madison Central, Tupelo, and us. And so, they didn't even. But now, we do just a much better job today with almost every aspect of coaching, especially with the safety, with the teaching, and all those things that we do. Has just made it all, I think, a much better game.
No, I would agree with you. Take us back through some of your teams, some of your coaches, where you coached, obviously, some of those memories that kind of highlight. And I know it's not fair to try to say this team was better than this team or these players, but just to kind of take us through that.
Well, we won 4 state championships, had 2 runner-ups, went to the semis 12 times. In 1987, we broke Rosedale's 40-game win streak, and we went to the finals that year and lost to Mendenhall. That game was one of the biggest games. I thought it kind of put Amory High School on the map at the time because they had won back-to-back state titles and 40 games in a row, and it was pretty much a given that nobody in 3A was going to beat them. We beat them 29-28 in overtime. And I've said this many times, we could have played them 10 more times. I don't think we would have beat them a time, but we beat them that night, and that was all that mattered. So that was big. And all of the teams. We had some teams that didn't win it all that I thought was just as good as some of the teams that did win it all. So that 95 team, it's been rated as one of the best high school football teams of all time in the state of Mississippi. And some people say, yeah, well, you wasn't 5A, you wasn't 6A or whatever. But I would say this, go back and research how many people that we had off of that team that signed Power 5 scholarships. And then you go back and you look also on that team, the guys that signed scholarships that wasn't Power 5. For some reason, Amory just went through a phenomenal amount of talent that time, and it was a great, great football team. I tell people that team was so talented, all I did was gas the bus and air the balls.
I remember that team well because, I was just a year out of high school, and everybody was talking about Amory and what Amory was doing, what you guys were doing up there. And you're right. You could say – pound for pound, if you could put it in some sort of a video game where you're playing eras, that team would be one of the best in Mississippi, if not the best.
An article came out. Time gets away from us. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, in the Clarion Ledger, back when we all still used to read the newspaper, and they rated the 10 best teams in the history of the state, and Amory was in that conversation. So I was proud of that.
Bobby Hall joining us for a few minutes today, MAAA Hall of Fame inductee 2024. Coach, obviously, you look at some of the coaches that you had a chance to bring up under you, from Marcus Boyles to several others. Talk a little bit about that and kind of the Bobby Hall coaching tree that is out there in Israel.
Wow, that coaching tree is I was the second winningest public school coach in the history of the state behind a gentleman by the name of Jim Drury from Boonville. And then the next winningest guy is Marcus Boyles, and he's going to pass me pretty soon. And quite frankly, I'm perfectly fine with that. When I went to Raleigh in 1980, me and Will Hall's mother, when we went down there, I was 25. It was my first head job. She was 24. Will Hall was 10 weeks old. Marcus Boyles was a ninth grader. I always can keep up with his age because I was 25 and he was 15. And so I coached him all 4 of his years there, and he's become one of the greatest high school football coaches in the history of this state. You got Toby Collum, that's at Madison Central now. I gave him his first job at Wayne County, and you can just go on and on and on the amount of people that are out there that either played for me or coached with me that have gone on to be high school coaches that are having success. I think all of them's doing good. I can't think of anybody that that's not doing good.
No, I would agree with that. And then, Mississippi, and I say this a lot, especially when we have the state championships, we get a chance to work the kind of the red carpet there and talk in between games and stuff, is the history of Mississippi high school football is so special. From just what you referenced, like your coaching tree, your teams, you get into the communities like Louisville, Starkville, even now what's going on in Metro Jackson with Brandon and Madison Central, and all these teams. Mississippi high school football just continues to grow in the best of ways, and a lot of that is credit to what you guys did.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And Brandon and Madison Central have two of the great programs in this state. And ironically, I got to say this, Brandon's offensive line coach, his dad was Ed Stanley, who was my defensive coordinator for 7 years, and I gave him his first job. And, of course, he went on and won state titles, at South Panola, and took Meridian to the finals. A very, very dear friend of mine. So, I love this state. I love Mississippi. I think we're a very well kept secret. I'm very, very fond of the quality of football we play in this state. We don't have the tax dollars. We don't have the population, 2.9 million people. But per capita, we're as good as anybody in the country.
100% agree. Bobby Hall, MAAA Hall of Fame inductee today. Coach Hall, again, congratulations, and thank you for taking some time with us today.
Thank you for asking me. God bless you.
Absolutely. Got to take a time out. We'll come back. We'll carry on. We're at the MAAA Conference on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, brought to you by the MHSAA. Back in a bit.
In Louis, Missouri.
Okay, we're back. I'm ready. It's the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's live and local on Jackson Sports Authority, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, and online at thezone1059.com.
Brought to you by Mississippi Legends Grill. Everyone knows your name at Mississippi Legends Grill, corner of Castlewoods Drive and Lakeland Drive. Bingo trivia. Kids eat free today. Take your kids to Mississippi Legends Grill. They can eat free today. Of course, go to Facebook.com/Mississippi Legends Grill. Get the lunch special of the day. We're also brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play. Today we'll have Raphael Esparza coming up here in about 15 minutes. Right now we are joined by Miss Tabitha Beard, Oxford High School, 8 years co-activities director, and of course she has been named Administrator of the Year along with Mr. John Odom from Yazoo County. Tabitha, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you. Doing good.
I tell you, I hear Oxford High School and my ears pop up. Like, I know that's a lot going on. There's a lot of championships. That's a great school area. I mean, you talk about the Oxford community. Take us through, obviously, first off, congratulations for the award, but
thank you.
How it's been. I mean, you guys are a machine and kind of a model that a lot of people love to look at up there at Oxford.
We're definitely blessed, being right there with Ole Miss and having all those resources. But we have amazing people on board, and Mr. Robertson, our superintendent, is just one of those guys, and we just attract great people. And it's kind of easy when you have the right people in place, and he's empowered us to make that happen in the sports world. I mean, we have just about every administrator there has some ties to sports or coaching, so they kind of get it from our end, and they allow us to pursue. And we've gotten great educators and great coaches out of that. So it's been a little easy to build that when you have the right people in place. Now, prior to Oxford, kind of just for our knowledge, your background coming in, pre-Oxford High School. Sure. I coached softball, and I've taught math I was at New Hope High School for 15 years. That's where I graduated from. So after I graduated college, I just kind of went back home and stayed there and worked there. Had a lot of success, won 5 state championships, and kind of got to a lull in my coaching career, and went to Tupelo for a year and loved it there. And Mike Martin, who was the AD before me, and he kind of pursued me. I'd taken kind of an assistant coaching role at Tupelo, and he came after me for that softball position when Oxford opened up. And I went to Oxford, and I never thought I would do anything other than coach softball and teach. And Mr. Robertson really encouraged me to pursue leadership. He saw something in me early, and it was pretty cool, and I did that. And I got kind of in. I had to do like a 1,000-hour internship, and I got in with Mike. And then when Mike retired, he hired Chris and I as co-activities directors. So I'm a co with Chris Ballman. That's another another. I can't say enough about him. Having that partner in this role makes it so much easier, and he's amazing. And getting to work with him every day and those people, it's a lot of putting the right people in place, and it helps you be successful. So.
Having a conversation with Miss Tabitha Beard, Oxford High School. She is today nominated and, of course, awarded Athletic Administrator of the Year, along with John Odom. We'll be able to catch up with John later on in the program. You talk about New Hope. Big baseball, softball. I'm not telling you anything, but that's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear New Hope. Like, wow. Kind of stuck out there north of Columbus, or direction-wise, I may be off just a little bit. Just, country town, but, man, you guys play baseball and softball like nobody else.
We do. That when I took over, Coach Shepard, who was my high school coach and my sister's high school coach, and she was the legend of the softball world. She had won 6 state championships in a row, and she didn't win that one year. And then I came in and talk about pressure, and then we go on to win 5 more after that. So, just amazing girls, and the talent there, and kind of the rec system that built that up, and she built that up, and to see that and to be a part of that. And then our baseball team, you always think of New Hope, and you think of that infamous 43-0 season and all of that stuff. So you're right, it's pretty big there. Softball and baseball are big. So
here, in this setting, you get a chance to talk with other administrators, from big schools to small schools and everywhere in between. What are some of the challenges that you hear other people talk about as far as, to build programs, and then maybe some that you've had maybe issues with but were able to kind of overcome and give that advice to other administrators that may be listening?
One of the biggest, networking and finding people and forming a unit. That's one thing about the MAAA and the NIAAA and all of these organizations. I've had the opportunity to work with people like Celeste Bramlett. Madison County, that's premier, and Madison Central, and to when you're friends with those and you've networked and you've made those connections. So the biggest advice I can get is find your people and put them in your corner, and don't be scared to ask questions, because sometimes especially when you're new and you're starting out, you think, well, if I ask, they're going to, someone might think less of me, and that's not the case. I mean, we're all here to help, and we would all love to help. I think, so find a village, and, and embrace the MAAA and the NIAAA on the national level, and, because it can get hard. I mean, it's a lonely profession at times, just like coaching. I mean, you have to have people that you can talk to, and people that can encourage and help and build you up. And if you have questions or problems, go into them. So I think one of the things that I like the most is being able to be that for other people, and, forming friendships with people like Celeste Bramlett and, Toby Collins and all those people around the world, around our, state, that we can really, turn to if we have issues.
Sure. And then as we get you on your way here, you talk about Oxford. Places like Oxford, and what I mean by places that are extremely successful at that point. I mean, I don't want to say it kind of runs itself, because you still have to have your hands on the wheel, but it becomes expected, right, by the community. It's expected by the parents. It's expected by the kids as well to be successful.
No doubt. And it's something you build on from year to year, and you think that, it just runs. But we have an amazing community that supports us and supports our school system. And, to see that, it's very different from a community like New Hope, and the resources there, it's so much. And having those people that just say, last week we had a meeting, what can I do to help? Like, I want to make sure that every single athlete is taken care of, every single student is taken care of, and that's just kind of our community. We have a Love Packs program for if you need food. It's all, if we need something, we know that there's always someone there that'll help meet that need. So it's a really neat community in that regard.
Miss Tabitha Beard, Oxford High School. She has been there 8 years, co-athletics director, or of course, activities director. Congratulations on your award. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We will carry on here. Coming up in just a bit, Raphael Esparza, mybookie.ag, will join the program, and we'll get him in and talk about the NFL playoffs and see what else Esparza has going on as well. Beav, anything on your end we need to catch up here before we hit a break?
Just Possum Neck Joe, looking forward to when college players start getting busted by the IRS for tax evasion over the NIL deals.
Yeah, and I've still got to get to this story. Should collectives be considered athletes' employers? And this is courtesy of Sportico. And just to kind of tee this up, we'll come back to it. Today's guest columnist is University of Illinois professor Michael H. Leroy, as he talks about college football fans probably weren't shocked when Nebraska's Matt Rule recently referred to some teams that have a $6 million or $7 million player playing for them. Quote, let's just make sure we all understand what happens or what's happening, the Huskers coach added, seemingly alluding to the recruiting process in the college sports name, image, and likeness world. So we will get off into that. In year 3, we're kind of in year 3 of the sports NIL era, and it just continues to grow, but not always in the best of ways, shall we say. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. You can always call us 601-897-1059 if you want to be a part of the program. And let me see if I can get you one more update here before we get out of here. I'm looking at, let's see. Sports, business, Nope, let me come over here real quick. I'm just kind of sifting through these notes here. We do need to get back into this. ACC seeks to block Florida State from league affairs and amended complaint as school explores an exit option. So you got two things going on here. You got the ACC trying to block Florida State from anything going on with the league, and now Florida State is trying to get out. So, I mean, this is the worst of divorces, shall we say, that is happening here between the ACC and Florida State. We're brought to you by Madison PTS. We're going to be out with Madison PTS next Thursday, I believe. I have to check the calendar, but we will be out with Bill Thomas next week and his team at PTS Power Pitching. They're here to help your athletes take advantage of their new facility right now. And, of course, you can sign up for a sports performance evaluation, arm care program, strength and conditioning classes, velocity enhancement. And, of course, you can also know numbers, find your numbers like Repsodo, pitch logic, ball, pulse censoring, and, of course, for the elbow and blast motion for the bat. 601-898-1828. That's 601-898-1828. Got to take a timeout. We come back. Raphael Esparza, mybookie.ag on your radio.com.
This is the home of the Chuck Oliver Show every weekday from 10 till noon on Mississippi's live and local sports authority. And where? We're back to Jake Quiverly with the afternoon drive on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Taking you home on a Thursday. It is the afternoon drive. Glad to be with you on a Thursday at the MAAA Athletic Administrators Association meetings. We're brought to you by our friends at Burgers Blues Barbecue, now open in Flowood, Madison, and Brandon. Flowood and Madison, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Get out and enjoy. Make sure to find them on all social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Check them out, burgersbluesbarbecue.com. Raphael Esparza, mybookie.ag on your radio on Thursdays. Esparza, welcome in. How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
You know, we're hanging in there. Kind of had that sheet of ice come through the south. We didn't get as much as, say, Memphis or North Mississippi, but or even Buffalo for that matter. I mean, because I know when you look at Buffalo, you think Mississippi, right?
That's was Buffalo and Mississippi are right next to each other, aren't they?
Pretty close on the map. Hey, speaking of Buffalo, we'll get to that game here in a bit. We got 4 really, I think, good games, interesting games coming up this weekend. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. I want to get your thoughts on these. Houston Texans at Baltimore. C.J. Stroud has looked the part. They are. I'm looking at the book. I'm looking at 9.5-point dog on the road at Baltimore. Baltimore coming off a bye week, almost kind of like a double bye week because it's been quite a while since Lamar Jackson and a lot of these players have played. Total at 43.5. Do you see any lag out of Baltimore? And maybe we look up fourth quarter and Houston's hanging around.
I don't want to say lag, but I just think if the Houston Texans can start red hot like they did last week against the number 1 defense in the league, the Cleveland Browns, it's going to be a hard-fought game. I got the +10 when this number first came out, and I bet down to 9.5. I like Houston to cover, not to win, but to cover to keep this game close. I can see the Ravens winning by like maybe 4, 5, or 6 points. It's going to be a lot closer game than what the odds makers are telling us. I like Houston plus the points.
Raphael Esparza, mybookie.ag, get in and play today. Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers. First off, before I get your take on this game, which the line is pretty similar, at least the spread 9.5 is what I'm looking at. 49ers by 9.5. Totals at 50.5, a little higher. Were you shocked at the way Green Bay just manhandled Dallas last week?
I was. I thought if there was going to be one blowout last week, I thought it was going to be the role reverse. I thought the Packers defense wouldn't be able to slow down the Cowboys offense, and the role was reversed. So I was totally blown away. I thought we were going to see San Fran Dallas in this game, but instead the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love are here. So I was totally wrong in that one. So I'll eat the crow and cheer for the Packers in this game.
So who do you like? Do they keep this momentum? Is there any way they can go in and pull the upset against the 49ers?
I think they can hang around. Here's another one that wouldn't shock me. The 49ers win by a touchdown. And this one, I'm just a little bit shocked that both Saturday games have really high numbers, 9.5 on both of them. We can maybe see 10 on one of them. So I'm going to take the dog on one of them. I think a dog wins outright in these 4 games on Saturday and Sunday. So I think someone's barking, but I like the 49ers to win but not cover.
Tampa Bay, Sunday, 2 o'clock kick, takes on Detroit. Baker Mayfield trying to, I can't believe I'm going to say this, get Baker Mayfield to the NFC Championship game. Detroit on the road. Detroit a 6.5-point favorite. Totals at 49. Who you got?
Say it again, because I know you guys are Saints fans and listeners and all that. Baker Mayfield in a divisional playoff game. Say that again, because it's fantastic. I like the Lions this one. I think the Lions win. If there's a blowout, let's see if I can go 0 for 2. If there's a blowout, I think the Lions can blow out Tampa Bay. I think the Lions got the monkey off their back last week. They're finally getting a playoff win, a 1-point win. I think they're going to be much looser in this game. I think the Lions blow out Tampa Bay.
Chiefs taking on the Bills Sunday 5:30, first road game in the playoff career for Patrick Mahomes. They go on the road. They're a 3-point dog. Is the wrong team favorite here? Total 45.5.
No, it won't shock me whoever wins this one, because I think both of them have been disappointing all season long. Even though Buffalo comes in red hot, Kansas City drops passes left and right. I like Buffalo just because this is KC's first playoff road game. I think Buffalo wins this one. I just think Josh Allen outduels Patrick Mahomes. It wouldn't shock me if we see some more drop passes from Kansas City. I like Buffalo. I think the Bills Mafia at home be too much.
All right, reports of Bill Belichick likely, can we say likely at this point, headed to Atlanta? Does that even sound right?
It does. I'm hearing that he wasn't even close to going to Dallas like everyone thought he was. So I think with that out the door, Pittsburgh, not the Tomlin staying, all that, I think Atlanta is his spot if he wants to coach this year. So I think he will be at Atlanta, and I'm sure the Saints, Buccaneers, and Panthers are probably not happy with that.
And Jim Harbaugh, he's had 2 interviews. Does it stop there? End up at one of those places, go back to Michigan with a weird contract that he's asking for, like immunity, or does he have other interviews coming up?
I think it's either Chargers or Wolverines, and you said it both. I'm hearing San Diego, the Chargers contract has a lot of weird stuff in there. So I guess whoever bends to the Harbaugh, whoever bends the knee first, I think gets him. I still think it's the Chargers.
Do you have any odds on which one could win out over the other?
We did. It was all. What would Harbaugh coach next? It was all Chargers money. I took it down because we couldn't beg for anybody else. So it was Chargers. I think they were like minus $3 favorite.
Are you enjoying the dismantling of Alabama and what's going on? Obviously, Caleb DeBoer from Washington is headed over as the coach. He's putting together a pretty good staff. But, man, they have had an exodus of players, basically a full recruiting class, 25 guys out of that program.
Alabama, welcome to the world of college football or college sports in general. I mean, that's all they do. Now, this is why Coach K left. This is why all these other coaches have left. I don't care what Saban says. He didn't have enough guts or he was just tired of it. This is why he left. This is why those other Hall of Famers left. Welcome to the world of college sports, Alabama.
No, I agree with you 100%. 100%. Raphael Esparza on your radio. What else you got to play? What else you looking at this weekend?
To UFC 297, I was talking to the producer before you left me on there. Sean Strickland and Dupree we could see a WWE event after the fights, a stabbing, a chair, something. We could see a Conor-ish event after this fight. Both guys hate each other. They've already fought in the stands once. The UFC 297 pay-per-view might be worth just to see what happens before or after the main event.
And is Conor McGregor really coming back anytime soon, or do we even care anymore?
He said he's coming back now at UFC 300. I forgot which one in Vegas. I think it's in March or whatever. But I don't care. I don't think he wins anymore. I think Michael Chandler beats him.
Very good. Raphael Esparza, get out and play mybookie.ag. Esparza, have a great weekend. We'll do it again next week.
You do. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks so much. Raphael Esparza on your radio. We're brought to you by Williams Newman Williams. When you need a win, car wreck, truck accident, nursing home neglect. Online at WNWlegal.com. Back in a bit.
Indeed.
And action!
We got that and a whole lot more around here. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
What's the score?
He's got that, along with the hottest sports stories of the day on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Appreciate Raphael Esparza, mybookie.ag jumping in. We're brought to you by MacHike and Madison Gluckstadt. Get that great MacHike feeling today in Madison Gluckstadt. Go to MacHikeMadison.com. Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Chevy. Used and new inventory or new and used inventory on site, online with our friends at MacHike Madison. Adam Johnson, General Manager, MHSAA, on your radio. Sir, as always, you guys have done a heck of a job with the MAAA Athletic Administrators Association meetings. Welcome in. How are you?
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being down here. It's nice to be on with you in person versus calling in like usual. But, no, it's been a great couple of days. Obviously impacted by weather a little bit with some attendees and some of our vendors that were unable to get down to the coast and be with us. But we had a record number of attendees registered going into it, record number of vendors. Actually, our vendor hall was full, and we had some we had to turn away that were kind of staples coming down here, which just shows the importance of this group of administrators and the work they do through the state, and then these businesses that are here to support, help provide, better product and better solutions for whether it's field turf, whether it's, building new buildings, whether it's laundry services, scoreboards. I mean, it's just a great time for that product and innovation and services for us to come together and learn, for these administrators to, learn from one another and from the speakers and things that we have come in and be a part of it. So has been a great 2 days. We'll wrap up in the morning with half a day. And send folks back on their way around the state, and hopefully getting home, travel safely with what's going on right now. Yeah, it's good that everybody could get down here. Most everybody, I know some people in North Mississippi probably had maybe some problems getting down here, but it's been a great turnout. And you just talked to some of the people here. I think this is always a welcomed 2.5 days for the administrators, because you get talking to people, people that run smaller schools to bigger schools and everywhere in between, and to be able to collaborate really helps, I think, everybody involved. Absolutely. And, you look at a lot of times between whether it's a small school or a big school, they're going to face some different issues based on their size, but there's a lot of similarities. I mean, a lot of things that go into what happens day in and day out with athletic programs that they can share with one another, and spark ideas and collaborate on ways to improve their programs. So certainly a great time of idea sharing and being able to just kind of see what's happening around the state. And I know a lot of these folks know each other and probably are in close contact throughout the year, because we know it's a pretty tight-knit community of folks, but really getting to come together and share those ideas and that knowledge and experience is certainly beneficial for all these coaches, and benefit students when they get to go home and implement the things that they've, whether it's learned or just kind of tweaked the way they want to do things. Adam Johnson, General Manager of the MHSAA, on your radio, talking about the 2024 MAAA meetings down here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You've got some interesting news. We talked about this last year, until you said it earlier. I forgot about it, just because we got so much going on, about the junior high basketball tournaments. Yeah, we started our middle school basketball invitational last year, working hand in hand with a number of our community colleges throughout the state. We had 8 first-round sites that played last week. We grew it this year to a 48-team invitational. So we played 8 sites last weekend. We were scheduled to play 4 sites this weekend. We've punted that back a week just because of weather, obviously, and the issues surrounding that. So we'll have 4 sites playing next week, and then we'll play championships for that middle school invitational in 2 Saturdays, first weekend of February. Great event. I mean, it's just, trying to to really grow the sport in middle school, give them more opportunity to play and showcase throughout the state, and kind of get that exposure of teams they may not see in the regular season, because we know that's going to be a little bit more regional play. It's been a phenomenal event, been extremely well received by the schools, by the participants, and our community colleges have been such phenomenal partners in helping us facilitate that, because with so many teams and so many sites, we have to have someone who we know, hey, you run game days day in and day out, and can kind of just take this thing and run with it. They've done a phenomenal job and been a great partnership.
Speaking of basketball, it won't be long. You'll have the MHSAA Basketball Championships. Now, we saw the 7th classification, the addition of the 7th classification in football. Now we get 2 additional championship games in basketball coming up here before you know it.
That's correct. So that'll change our schedule a little bit for the week. I think we've been saying we play 36 games over 6 days. Well, now we're going to play 42 games, because in addition to 2 additional championship games, we'll play 4 additional semifinal games. So it will cram that week even fuller or more full of basketball. So we're looking forward to that coming up. I don't know exactly what that schedule change looks like. I know we'll play a couple more semifinal games on that Thursday, when usually Thursday is kind of just a championship day. We'll have some semifinal games in the morning, followed by a championship that night, and then just more games on Friday and Saturday. So what was a lot of basketball will be even more basketball in the big house here, and it's scary to think that that's in about 5 or 6 weeks.
It is. It is crazy. And
coming
of course,
up fast.
We don't want to forget about baseball. That'll be here in a blink of an eye. Another series, a 7th series, which will be fun. More baseball for everyone.
Absolutely. The 7A has been, definitely. We've seen some of that parity among classifications kind of change, kind of what the landscape of some of those different classifications and the championships have looked like. So it's definitely been a very positive thing. It's been great to see some of the matchups that have come because of just the shift in those classifications and where those schools fell. So, that's for baseball, for softball. It affected most of our championship events, and just tweaking those operational plans and those schedules slightly, but it hasn't been an overhaul of the way that we run our events.
And of course, we want to make sure that we make notice of all of the awards that you guys do. Of course, today, 2 great nominees into the Sports Hall of Fame, Bobby Hall and Tom Gladney. I mean, being able to visit with those guys, just iconic guys going into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. It's just such, it's really neat to sit back and listen to those guys, talk about their journey and to read about just how impactful they were and the success. And this is in a long line of folks. I think 13 now that are in the MAAA Hall of Fame, and just you realize what great people, in addition to the success that you can read about, but then you listen to them and the things that they say in their speeches and how much they care about impacting students' lives, and just reminds you how important our coaches are and our teachers and the people in our schools are in molding the young people that are in schools, walking the halls every day. So it's a really neat to get to hear that. We awarded our CDFL Sports Athletic Administrators of the Year today. We gave away our SB Live All Sports Awards. So it was a really good awards luncheon, recognizing those folks. And then, of course, want to say thank you both to Hellas and WBA Architecture for being title sponsors of our conference, helping make this happen for another year.
And finally, we got about 2 minutes here. You've got Mr. Miss Basketball coming up. You'll have baseball, softball awards. You guys continue to really do a great job expanding these awards and highlighting young kids.
And we added in volleyball this year.
Volleyball.
We had that in the fall. So that's been an important way for us to highlight the success that we have. And you see the talent that comes through, and I think we all know it's there. But then to really take a step back and look at who it is that are winning these awards and the things that they go on to do. Madison Booker missed 6A basketball last year. I pop on SportsCenter, and she's number 7 top 10 play yesterday morning on SportsCenter. So it's just those kind of things that you tie it back together and really remember and take a second to reflect on the talent pool that we have here across just about all sports.
It's unbelievable. Adam Johnson, General Manager, MHSAA on your radio. I appreciate you, my man.
Absolutely.
And always a good time. You guys have done a great job with this.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here and helping make it even better.
Absolutely. As we move towards the top of the hour, in hour number 3, coming in at 5:15, we'll have Ted Glandy. He was one of the entrants into the hall. Also, John Odom, Yazoo County High School Administrator of the Year, along with Tabitha Beard. John will be on at 5:15 as well. And, of course, we'll see what else we can get into as we move through the third hour. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Make your house a home today with Cowboy Maloney's, and, of course, a lot of other news that we need to get to as we move through the third hour. You can always call 601-885-3776. That's the text line. If you call 601-897-1059, that is the Malone Roofing caller line. We are brought to you by the MHSAA. Officially become official today. Go to MISSHSAA.com or call 601-924-6400 with the MHSAA. Hour number 3 coming up in just a bit. Got to take a time out. Back with more on the way.
Indeed.
WRKS Pickens Jackson, where it's
Time to
take a ride. Yes, we're back with Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive. It's live, it's local, and it's on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Hour 3 starts right now, courtesy of Capital Grill in Jackson, 5050 I-55 North Suite F. Capital Grill, your happy hour and afternoon destination. 18 TVs, get the game of your choice. Handcrafted food, beverage specials like Michelob Ultra and Bud Light, courtesy of Southern Beverage. Please drink responsibly. Get a game of pool, an appetizer, and a meal. Forget about the work day with Lance and his team. Go to capitalgrillofjackson.com. Also find them on facebook.com/Capital Grill of Jackson. We appreciate Adam Johnson jumping in. Also, Brett Beard in hour number 1. Bobby Hall at 4 o'clock. Raphael Esparza at 4:30. We also will say thanks to Tabitha Beard jumping in, Oxford High School. We got one more we'll tee up for you here in the next segment. Ted Gladney, as he was introduced and inducted into the Hall of Fame today, along with Bobby Hall. So we'll catch up with Gladney, Mr. Gladney, and then, of course, Administrator John Odom out of Yazoo County. The Buffalo Bills saying, hey, we're going to need some snow shovels again. Help at Highmark Stadium getting ready for the divisional round, so they continue to shovel snow at Buffalo. Also, some other NFL notes here. Big news for Indianapolis. The NFL Scouting Combine will remain in Indianapolis for 2025. It's going to be there this year and in 2025. As Anthony Calhoun says, he's, quote, told that the league gives a one-year extension for the NFL Combine. Also, Monday was a record-setting episode for ESPN Greeny and Get Up, if you care. Most views ever, 979,000 views. Previous record was 730,000 views. Also, the Ravens rolled out cornerback Marlon Humphreys for Saturday's divisional game against the Texans due to a calf injury. And also, David Shaw has completed an interview with the Chargers. So, former Stanford head football coach David Shaw has interviewed with the Chargers as they continue to interview clients or coaches for that vacancy. Chris Marler, who was on the show earlier this week, he put out an interesting stat line as it pertains to Georgia and Kirby Smart. Because, forever we talked about Nick Saban and who had beaten Nick Saban, which coaches, and then, who all has he beaten? Well, now we shift that attention to Kirby Smart, who's the best in the league as far as a head football coach. List of current active coaches who have beaten Kirby Smart. Hugh Freeze has beaten Kirby Smart. Tom Herman, Derek Mason, Butch Jones, believe it or not, Gus Malzahn, and Jim McElwain. And none since 2018. Have done that. And, of course, they were talking about active coaches. Active coaches. Nick Saban is not active anymore. Alabama, a lot of the negative news in the transfer portal. They actually get some positive news about 5 minutes ago. Alabama has landed a commitment from Washington four-star freshman Alston Mack. So Alston Mack, who was recruited by Kalen DeBoer to Washington, 6'6", 210-pound Mack, was a top 75 recruit in the 2023 cycle. And he is now headed to the University of Alabama. And just to kind of get you a little stat line on this guy, he was a four-star coming out of high school, 6'6", big scrapping kid, good-looking athlete. He was a true freshman this past year under Penix and Washington. Behind Penix, he got offers from Arizona, Cal, Colorado State, and several others. He will be headed to the University of Alabama. Also, the University of Texas, we were talking in hour number one about Florida State and their operating revenue and things of that nature. Texas hits an NCAA record total of operating revenue in fiscal year 2023. The University of Texas reported total operating revenue of more than $271 million during the fiscal year of 2023, the largest single-year total since the NCAA began its current financial reporting system in 2005. According to Berkowitz and Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman, the report means that UT increased its revenue by nearly $32 million over its total reported in 2022. University of Texas Athletics Director Chris Del Conte said that the biggest reason for the increase in revenue were the school's first year in the Moody Center and the first year of a new local media rights agreement with Learfield. Berkowitz and Bowles noted UT credited its football program with $183 million in operating revenue in 2023 and $122 million in surplus over operating expenses. When Texas moves to the SEC, its income from conference revenue sharing eventually will be significantly higher than it has been in the Big 12. Let's go to Gator Matt on the Malone Roofing caller line. Matt, happy Thursday. Hello, Matt. Matt, you can give us a call back, 601-897-1059, or anybody else for that matter. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. So Texas expected to see an increase in revenue as it moves into the Southeastern Conference, a significant jump from what they were getting in the Big 12. The school, quote, likely received $42 to $45 million from the Big 12 in 2023. Under its entry agreement in the SEC, Texas will not be a full participant in the SEC revenue sharing until 25-26 year. And that's likely going to be for Oklahoma as well, I would assume. It seems likely that Texas's annual share from the SEC eventually will be around $20 million more than they got from the Big 12. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Matt. Matt, welcome in.
Am I here? Are you going to hang up on me again?
Hey, I have no. I'm on a desert island out here. I can't control it.
Beaver bailed you out. He said he blamed it on the phones, but I still think you have something to do with it. I have LSU friends of mine, and I love them. I hate LSU, and I think just LSU is they're so naive to what Texas is about to do. They think Texas is like, oh, Texas is just going to. You just nailed it. I mean, Texas. Think about it, and the whole NIL thing. They got to figure this out, because let me tell you, you got some muscle that's about to flex, and they're going to be. I mean, look, you already see what's happening in Alabama now that Saban's gone. I mean, they're about to be. I mean, welcome to mediocrity, Alabama fans, because you're about to be staring right at it. And Texas, now that they're in the SEC, I mean, good Lord, Jake. I mean, with the amount of money that they have, if we don't regulate this whole, first of all, the school should just be paying the players. To ask me to not only pay an inflated amount for tickets, now you want me to to pay for a coach, and now you want me to pull out extra money to pay a player that's 17 years old that hasn't proven a thing is ridiculous. The school it should be scaled where the schools just pay them directly, because let me tell you, Texas is about to have a huge advantage. Also, Scott Strickland apparently is rumored to go straight to Texas A&M. See ya.
601-897-1059. I don't know if Matt was checking out at a grocery store or what that beeping was doing, or I have no idea. Yeah, Texas continues to get rich. The rich get richer, and look, I mean, it's going to be tough. Texas is going to make it hard on a lot of their SEC brethren in all sports, not just football, but basketball, baseball, softball. I mean, you name it, track and field. Texas is going to come in and, grab the bull by the horns, no pun intended. 601-885-3776. We'll get to Ravens coach John Harbaugh on Brother Jim Harbaugh on the NFL Chatter. And he continues to say, hey, look, he loves Michigan, but he loves the NFL. And there's more on that. We'll see. We talked to Raphael Esparza about that as far as what we can expect maybe from Jim Harbaugh. Also, Cowboys reporter makes the case that Dak Prescott is basically Tony Romo. I will get to that a little bit later on. And then Fubo CEO horrified by Peacock exclusive NFL playoff game. We'll get to those thoughts as well. And then, of course, we were talking about Auburn, 2024 Auburn football, looking pretty darn good in the transfer portal. Auburn has recruited pretty well. We were talking to Brett Beard about that. We talked to Steve Robertson yesterday, and we'll get all that teed up before the end of the week about Mississippi State and what's going on with their football program. We'll talk tomorrow with likely it's going to be Jake Thompson from On3 or Michael Katz if he's back working. We'll talk with him tomorrow about Ole Miss. We're brought to you by our friends at Capital Orthopedic, online at capitalortho.com. Hey, check them out. One of their 6 locations, convenient locations in Flowood, Madison, Clinton, Brookhaven, Hazelhurst, and Kosciuszko. Move better, live better, feel better, be better with Capital Orthopedic. 601-987-8200. We're going to take a timeout. We come back. We're going to tee up Ted Gladney, another entry into the Hall of Fame today here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, the CDFL MAAA Athletics Administrators and Hall of Fame Members of the Year. Got to take a timeout. Back with more.
St. Louis, Missouri.
We got that and a whole lot more around here. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
What's the score?
He's got that, along with the hottest sports stories of the day on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Taking you through a Thursday, it is the Afternoon Drive brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play today at Ameristar. Make sure to get the Bet Builder. You can go to AmeriStarCasino.com/Vicksburg. 2024 inductees into the MAAA Hall of Fame continue as Bobby Hall in. Now we're pleased to visit with Tom Gladney on the program. Mr. Gladney, thank you so much for taking some time. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you, and appreciate you being here at our conference.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Take us back, born in Jackson, Wingfield High School. Boy, those were the days when, you talk about McDowell Road and people getting up, down, South Jackson. Yeah. Kind of take us through that growing up there, and then, of course, how your career kind of manifested itself.
Well, I grew up right next to Levelwoods Park. And I could walk out my front door and be at Levelwoods Park. I could walk out my back door and be at Sykes Park down there. So we were at the park all the time. Now they don't even play games there anymore. And my education has gone null and void. Jackson Public Schools is closing some schools. They closing Sykes Elementary where I went, Whitten Junior High where I went, and Wingfield High School where I went. So my education is null and void right now. But it was a great time and great schools, and I hate to see it go in that direction, but they've lost a lot of students, and they're just trying to do the best they can.
Sure. And before we move into some of the highlights of your career, you'd reference Levelwoods and those parks down there. I can remember growing up in the 80s and 90s, and that's where baseball lived. It absolutely lived there.
Yeah. And again, my dad, he'd just walk out there and watch games every night, whether we were playing or not, but we went when we weren't playing. But it was just a great time to grow up and a lot of fun to be out there in that era of time.
Take us through, playing at Mississippi College. Of course, you got your bachelor's of arts and sciences and a master's at Mississippi College. Take us through that time in your life.
I went out there to play football and baseball. Probably was a better baseball player, but excelled more in football simply because you worked at it more. Back then there weren't batting cages and there weren't pitching machines and there weren't things that kids have today. But really enjoyed playing both of them. And Coach John Williams was the football coach, and then Ed Nixon was the baseball coach and gave it up. He became the girls' basketball coach and then coached at Alabama. But Bill Moose Perry became the baseball coach, and I played for him and then was a graduate assistant for him out at Mississippi College before he left. And then I got to be the assistant baseball coach out there and worked out there for 20 years.
What took you to Texas?
We got our first and only granddaughter, Lila White. This is my youngest daughter's little girl. She just turned 2 on Halloween. And we're going to have a grandson in March, 2 months from now. So we're just excited to be out there close to them.
No, absolutely. And take us through, your tenure, as a coach, 284, 72, and 1 overall at Midway High School, 9 district titles, 1 state championship, 1 state runner-up, 7 district coach of the year honors, and 2 statewide coach of the year awards. You guys really cleaned it up during that time.
It was a great time to be at Midway High School. Midway had already had really good baseball. But over the course of the years, I think they had 10 or 11 guys to play minor league or pro baseball. And in the 10 years I was there, not because of me, but because the baseball had grown so much, there were 13 guys that played some form of Major League Baseball. 44 guys went off to play college baseball, and it was just a great time to be at Midway High School, and it was a lot of fun.
We're visiting with Mr. Tom Gladney. He is the MAAA Hall of Fame inductee 2024. He's kind enough to give us some time and talk a little bit about his career. Tom, you also served as chairman of the Gulf South Conference baseball coaches on 2 different occasions and served 6 years on the NCAA Division II All-American Committee. Also 6 years on a High School Baseball Coaches Association All-American as well. So, I mean, when you talk about baseball and just, you're kind of hands molding young men, I mean, college, high school, you've kind of been everywhere.
Well, and it was a lot of fun. The Gulf South Conference, when 74, Jacksonville State, Troy State, Southeast Louisiana, Nichols, Northwestern State, Delta State, Mississippi College, Livingston, which is now West Alabama, Valdosta. I mean, it was an unbelievable league, and now a lot of those schools have moved to Division I. Now, Gulf South Conference is still good, but it was really dominating in football, basketball, and baseball at that time, so it was a tough challenge. But a lot of good years there, and a lot of good years at Midway High School.
So take us to what you do when you look at baseball today, and you see how the game is played. Obviously, it's played at a high level. There's tournament ball everywhere. I mean, guys as young as 8 and 9 right now are in cages getting ready for tournament ball. Just your thoughts on the evolution of baseball and where it's at today.
It's in a good place, and it's in a bad place. I think they might play too much. There are a lot of arm injuries, and that goes back to there's only so many throws in your arm.
Right.
And they start off throwing at 8 and 9 and trying to throw breaking balls at 8 and 9, and they get to high school and they may be okay, but then they get to college, or they may have the surgery in high school or whatever. But
right.
The arm needs some rest, and I don't know the answer to it. I've had buddies who played for me, and their kids are playing, and they'll say, "Coach, I know," but he said all his buddies are playing, and they want to be on the same team with them and do those things, and they get a lot of exposure, but I'm just not sure we're not doing too much.
When you look at the high school game, and of course you get from high school to college, and we talk a lot about this because of what we're talking about with the tournament ball, it's so hard now to get to college to play because there's so many players. I mean, you look here in the state of Mississippi, just at when the MHSAA has their state baseball championships at Trustmark Park, just that alone, the talent that's on the field, it's very, very tough to get to college now.
Mississippi does not lack in baseball as far as kids who can play college level. The transfer portal has hurt kids coming out of high school. The big schools, if they need a player that can play right away, they look at the transfer portal first.
Yeah.
And then they look at a high school kid. But for another year or two, it's probably tough on high school kids. Not to say they can't sign with, a Division I school, at Power 5 school, but there are just so many transfer portal guys out there that it does make it a little tough.
Before we finish it up here, and of course we're visiting with Tom Gladney, MAAA Hall of Fame inductee today, along with Bobby Hall. You were a scout as well, high school scout for the Kansas City Royals, Boston Red Sox, Colorado Rockies, and Milwaukee Brewers. Take us through some of that because I know that can be kind of a grind.
It was really what they call a high school associate scout, and basically when I go to games, if I saw somebody, I would send it to the guy. My last one was with the Brewers, and I was on the Gulf Coast, and they brought the Brewers AA team to Biloxi or whatever.
Right.
And probably my biggest, I guess you'd say, involvement, it was a former player of mine who had done really well and was with the Red Sox at the time. And the Brewers guy called me and asked me all about him. I said, "Are y'all trading for him?" He said, "Oh, we're just looking at some options." Well, the next day they traded for Aaron Wilkerson. He comes to Biloxi, and I get to see him pitch every 5 days, so it was really neat to get to see him. And he got a touch of, the big leagues, cup of coffee here and there, but he's in Japan playing right now, so hopefully he can, maybe get another chance.
As you, we put a wrap on it, put a bow on it right here. Down here at the IP, you get this award today. Kind of looking back, what does this mean for you?
It's a great honor. There's plenty of people that probably should have been in there before me or whatever, and the people that have been in there that are already in there really set the standards and everything, and it's a great honor to be able to be in that class.
Tom Gladney, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time today. MAAA Hall of Fame inductee on your radio. As we carry on, we're visiting with Joe Odom, Yazoo County High School MAAA Athletic Administrators of the Year, along with Tabitha Beard, Oxford High School. Joe, thanks so much for taking some time. How are you?
Oh, good, man. How are you?
Man, we're doing good. A lot of people here, obviously. A lot of good stuff happening here. Congratulations on the award for you.
I appreciate it.
Take us through what this means for you guys, 2022, 2023, Yazoo County Athletic Director of the Year.
Oh, man, it's been a long road, a lot of hours put in. My wife, she came with me, and she's my biggest support, and I couldn't do it without her and my family.
Talk a little bit about Yazoo County. We talk a lot about Central Mississippi. We talk about Oxford. We talk here. We talk there. But let's talk about Yazoo County.
Oh, Yazoo County is a great place. Born and raised there. Spent my entire 19-year career at Yazoo County. Great people, great kids. Couldn't ask for a better place to be.
When you got there, what have you guys done differently to kind of move Yazoo County forward?
I started working at the elementary school there in 2005. We had very few sports at the high school to speak of, and now we offer everything except for bowling, swimming and diving. We offer pretty much, and bass fishing. That's the only thing we don't offer there. So we offer the kids there a wide range of activities and athletics to participate in.
When you go into a place, and I'm preaching to the choir here, that typically has not done a lot of things, maybe just for whatever reason, not doing what you guys are doing now, sometimes it's hard to get the community and the parents to buy in, but it sounds like they have absolutely done that for you guys.
Oh, yes. We have participation through all of our athletics and activities. Our parents and our community, they do whatever they have to do to help out.
We're visiting with Joe Odom, Yazoo County High School 2022-2023 MAAA Athletic Administrators of the Year Award. Before we get you out of here, just kind of talk a little bit about the award and what it means for you.
Oh man, it means a lot. I put in a lot of hours. Had to sacrifice a lot with my family and to get where I am today. I've been in this district for 19 years and it just means a lot for me to be here.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Got to take a time out. More coming your way from the IP Casino. Back in a bit.
Turning to sports. With Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive.
One of the last pure pleasures I have left in my life.
Yeah, maybe you ought to get a life first, okay? On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Clinton Body Shop. 2 locations in Stravey, Clinton and Richland, 601-924-2159. Also down in Richland, 601-932-0459. OEM factory certified, all the manufacturers that you trust. Hey, and at Clinton Body Shop, your family's safety and your car's value is extremely important. Go to ClintonBodyShop.com. As we carry on, a couple segments left here to go on a Thursday. Beaver, anything on your end of the world we need to get to?
Just one juicy stat from White Denzel. I don't want to say stat of the day because that's a Dan Patrick thing, but this is a stat of the day. White Denzel says no team has lost to Kirk Cousins and made the Super Bowl in the same year. The 49ers and Packers both lost to him just this season.
Oh. So that means somebody's going to go on this week but then may get beat next week? Did I understand that right?
They're not winning the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yeah, whoever wins this week will not go much further, according to this.
That is very, very interesting. Speaking of the NFL, quarterback power rankings, we kind of ran through them, but let me go back over them as we head into the weekend. At least this is the way CBSSports.com grades out the quarterbacks for this weekend. And, this is based on, obviously, season-long play, but then also playoff play, and some of these quarterbacks haven't played yet. Josh Allen sitting at number 1. Allen, though, is 0-2 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs, but the series is even 3-3 when including the regular season. Does Mahomes deserve to benefit or get the benefit of the doubt as the postseason's top quarterback due to the championship resume? Sure, you could put him in there for sure or put him at the top, but Allen's been more like a superhero self. His superhero self this year. Can he get himself in trouble? We know that he can. We'll see what happens over the weekend. Patrick Mahomes at number 2. What he lacked in efficiency during Kansas City's rout of the Dolphins, he made up for with situational production, leaning on rookie Rashi Rice to move the chains and to control the clock all year. The numbers haven't been up to what the standard is in Kansas City, yet he's come through when it matters the most, including as a scrambler. Like Tom Brady during his Patriots prime, Mahomes is the closest thing in today's NFL to the safest bet, especially in the playoff stage. Can he outlast the Bills? We'll see. Lamar Jackson, fresh off a new contract, comes in at number 3. Of course, for this year, Jackson did everything right this year. He stayed on the field. He made smart decisions through the air. And he didn't abandon his unmatched ability to make teams look foolish as a runner. Now comes the ultimate test. Can he conquer the weight of the unmet playoff expectations? With 1 win in 4 previous postseason tries, Jackson has a chance to quiet all the naysayers and justify his MVP favoritism against the upstart Texans. Brock Purdy jumps in at number 4. And like Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Purdy was as clean as they come during the regular season, even better, in fact. Kyle Shanahan propped him up with a plenty of talent, a quarterback-friendly scheme, and lots of firepower. And, of course, he took advantage of that. All that said, he'll now be tasked with translating that effort into the dominance of the playoffs. Can they do that? A lot of people feel like they will. C.J. Stroud comes in at number 5. We'll see what he looks like in his second playoff game. The Ravens are the AFC's number 1 seed with the MVP frontrunner at quarterback, and yet the Texans cannot be counted out, and it's because of C.J. Stroud and the way that he has played. Number 6, Jordan Love. This spot doesn't do justice for Love, but blame the bevy of quality quarterbacks still in the dance, and not the Packers quarterback who, at 25, has suddenly proven he's present and future on the Green Bay Packer quarterback list. When you talk about those of Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, now Jordan Love carving out his own niche. Jared Goff at number 7 with the Detroit Lions. Goff is entrenching himself as something of a local legend, delivering the Lions' first home playoff victory in more than 30 years with a sharp, savvy pocket passing. The proof has been there all year. Give him protection, and he'll pick the other part aside. Now comes the tricky part. Can he stand his ground and avoid forcing throws when it matters the most against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team coming up this weekend? And then Baker Mayfield comes in at number 8, rather, at the bottom of the list. But Baker Mayfield is a big reason Tampa Bay is where they are. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Make your house home today with Cowboy Maloney's. The ACC, we teed this up earlier, but the ACC seeks to block Florida State from league affairs in amended complaint as school explores exit options. The ACC included 6 claims for relief in the amended complaint. This courtesy of Dean Straka, CBSSports.com. The ACC formally amended its complaint against Florida State Wednesday. That would be yesterday. Multiple outlets report the 55-page filing alleges that the university breached its original contract with the league when it chose to challenge the conference's exclusive grant of rights for TV broadcast. Perhaps the most important thing, the ACC requested that the court issue a permanent injunction that would bar Florida State from participating in ACC management affairs due to what is called the, quote, direct and material conflict of interest with the purpose of objectives of the conference, according to documents obtained by ESPN. In total, the ACC amended complaint includes 6 claims of relief. Many of excuse me, let me get back over here. This ad just popped up on this thing. Many of the complaints, ACC amended complaints, allege a breach of contract from Florida State. All 6, of course, are outlined in this article or in this paper, this one sheet here. Request for a declaratory judgment to be the grant of rights and amended grant of rights deal are valid and enforceable contracts. That's number 1. Acceptance of benefits provided by the grants of rights. The conference alleges Florida State waived its right to challenge it. Number 3, the ACC alleges Florida State has breached the promises it made to the original grant of rights agreement. The 4th Amendment, the ACC alleges Florida State breached its promise to protect, quote, trade secrets between the league and its television partner ESPN. They also say the ACC alleges Florida State had breached its obligations to the conference required by both the ACC Constitution and North Carolina law, and the ACC alleges Florida State breached its obligation to act in good faith and fair dealing under the ACC Constitution. So there's a lot going on here between the ACC and Florida State. This isn't going to get I just don't see a way back, a path back for Florida State and the ACC as they move forward. I think this is a divorce that's going to happen, and we'll see what happens. Speaking of what happens, how about grading second-year coaches officially? When you're talking about guys that have been at places for 2 years, you look at the top, Mike Elko, who moved on to Texas A&M, he was officially graded out an A. I mean, you talk about a guy at Duke who went 16-9. Record-wise, Duke regressed under Elko in 2023, falling from 9-4 to 7-5, but he was still plucked away from Durham, North Carolina by Texas A&M, and it's because of the 7 wins came over Clemson in the season opener, and the Blue Devils nearly knocked off Notre Dame too. It was in the Notre Dame loss that star quarterback Riley Leonard suffered a high ankle sprain and altered the rest of the Duke Blue Devils season. Billy Napier at 11-14 grades out as a D in 2 years, and I think that is fair. This year is not going to get much better when you talk about it. Maybe get worse because of the schedule, and I don't know that Billy Napier can make it beyond this year, not without doing something extraordinary. Brian Kelly, 2 years, 20-7. He gets a B+. Kelly put together his second 10-win season in as many tries at LSU. This season, he added a Heisman Trophy-winning quarterback to his resume. He's fallen short of the ultimate goal of winning a national championship, but the Tigers would have made the college football playoff in a 12-team field this past season. That will be the goal for 2024 as the format expands. Mario Cristobal, a D+, 12-13. And look, Mario Cristobal, this is going to be kind of a feast or famine type year for Mario Cristobal. He brings in a transfer quarterback from Washington State in Cameron Ward. Big things are expected, 12-13. And I want to kind of jump into Miami when we come back from the break in the final segment, but 12-13. Marcus Freeman grades out a B, 19-8 in 2 seasons at Notre Dame, and one more, and we'll get the rest of these on the other side. Brent Venables, C+, 16-10 for the Oklahoma Sooners. That's where he ranks. We are brought to you by Bailey Lumber. 2 locations to serve you throughout the week. 2150 Mississippi Highway 471 in Brandon. 4525 John Lynch Street in Jackson. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4. And you can go to BaileyLumber.com to learn more about great GAF roofing specials, lumber, supplies, windows, doors, roofing, and more. Hardware, everything you need. Legacy cabinets, Trex decking specials. That's at Bailey Lumber. Go to BaileyLumber.com. Time out on the floor. One more segment to go on. .com.
It's time to get back in the game with Jake Wimberly and the Afternoon Drive.
That's entertainment.
On the station that specializes in the Mississippi sports you love.
Now we're talking.
Live and local on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Final segment on a Thursday. We are brought to you by Waze Energy Drinks. 4 great flavors you can get your hands on. Rescue, which is an orange cream drink. The Engage, a sour lime flavor. Respond, a great pomegranate peach flavor. And Revive, a classic energy flavor. You can find them in several locations around Central Mississippi, like Hotspot Market 11 in Gluckstadt. Also Germantown High School, MJ Food Mart, and more. You can just go to WazeEnergy.com to learn more today about a great zero-sugar, high-caffeine drink. A portion of the proceeds support the Gary Sinise Foundation. Also, Facebook.com/Waze Energy to get the interactive map and learn more today. We're also brought to you by Ranco Transmission, 1460 Old Brandon Road in Flowood. And, of course, you can call 601-939-9184. Our friends at Ranco Transmission. I want to say thanks to the MHSAA, thanks to CDFL, Architects and Engineers, also Musco Lighting, BSN Sports, and several others that helped put this great program on this week down here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. As we'll be back in studio, or I'll be back in studio with Beeve tomorrow to finish out the week. Beeve, anything on your end we need to get to? And as we chalk up the next 13 or 14 minutes, let me get back into these coaches real quickly. We left off with Marcus Freeman, 2-year grades. Go back over here. 2-year grades for coaches. Obviously, they've been at programs for, say, 2 years, just 2 years. Like Mike Elko, who's now at Texas A&M. He coached 2 years at Duke. He went 16-9. He gets a grade of an A. And I think that is a accurate grade for Mike Elko, especially when you start talking about, winning at Duke. It's just not a place where we saw David Cutcliffe struggle to win there. I mean, obviously they had guys that went to the NFL, but 16-9 for Mike Elko gets an A. Billy Napier, a D, 11-14. As this excerpt says, I'm not sure there's a coach at the Power 5 level on a hotter seat than Napier. After an uninspiring 6-7 record in 2022, the Gators were less inspiring in 23 amid a 5-7 campaign. What had been a great recruiting class fizzled as signing day approached and the losses mounted. The Gators head into 2024 with one of the toughest schedules in the country and not a lot of confidence in their coach. And, if you go look really quickly, let me pull this real quick for the Florida Gators. And we've looked at this, obviously, but it's been a while. I just want to go back and look, because I just don't see a path for Billy Napier to make it unless he just – let's see, Florida – unless he just has a year where they can go win 8 ball games. And I just, used to Florida was almost a lock for 8. In certain years they have been. I just don't see that. I mean, if you look at this, they play Miami right out the gate. And this will be kind of a hot seat game, right? Because you look at Mario Cristobal, I mean, he's on the hot seat to some degree, and then Billy Napier. So Miami comes in. I'm going to give the edge to the Hurricanes. Samford in Game 2. Then they host Texas A&M before coming to Davis-Wade Stadium at Mississippi State. And none of those games outside of Samford is a lock for a win. They have a bye week because, remember, everybody has 2 bye weeks this year. They'll take on Central Florida, and that'll be at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Central Florida will bring in K.J. Jefferson, Gus Malzahn, and that's a game that is going to be a toss-up game for them. At Tennessee, Kentucky, bye week, Georgia at Everbank Field in Jacksonville, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, at Florida State. I don't know, 1, maybe 2, 3, maybe 4. It's going to be tough for Florida to get to 5 wins. I mean, it really is. And unless something drastically happens for the Florida Gators this year, it's just going to be extremely tough. All right, moving on to these other coaches. When you look at the second-year coaches, LSU Brian Kelly, 20-7. He gets a B+. That's, I think, extremely accurate when you look at the work Brian Kelly has done there. Mario Cristobal, 12-13. The good news, Miami, and he got a D+, by the way, didn't lose to Middle Tennessee State this year. The bad news, they only went 7-6 and are 12-13 in 2 seasons under Cristobal, including a 6-10 record in the ACC. That's not why he was hired. However, the Canes are doing well on the recruiting trail and will be considered one of the favorites in the conference next year. That sets up for the a huge rivalry with Florida State, obviously, in that conference. And you talk about high expectations. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, 19-8. He gets a B. He will likely have Notre Dame in the college football playoff this year, and he is doing everything right at Notre Dame. Brent Venables at 16-10 at Oklahoma gets a C+. Freeman with a B. Venables a C+. The Sooners took a big step forward in Venables' second season, improving from 6-7 to 10-3. It still wasn't good enough for the Big 12 championship game appearance. Now the Sooners are heading to the SEC, where life won't get any easier. Venables faces a big season in 24, and he absolutely does. Because if Texas comes in and has a big year, which they should, and Oklahoma kind of flounders a little bit, it could be problems. Dan Lanning gets a B+, 22-5. Of the 4 Pac-12 schools headed to the Big Ten, none of them look in a better shape than what Oregon has. It looks like under Dan Lanning. The Ducks are coming off a 12-2 season where their only 2 losses were close losses against Washington, who reached the national championship game. 22-5. The optimism is extremely high in Oregon. It says it could fade if the Ducks can't get over the hump again in 2024. I think Oregon will be one of the favorites to win the Big Ten in their first year. Michigan has lost a lot. They're replacing a lot. Jim Harbaugh could be gone. They'll be a decent team, a nice team, as we always say, a little bit better than Maryland. I mean, they'll be probably an 8, 9, maybe 10-win team, but I think Oregon is going to challenge Ohio State and Penn State to a much lesser degree, but I think they challenge Ohio State for the Big Ten championship. TCU, Sonny Dykes gets an A-, 18-9 in 2 years. Obviously made the national championship game last year. Even with a 5-7 mark this past season, the Horned Frogs are 18-9 under Dykes and have a chance to establish themselves as one of the power schools in the Big 12, the new Big 12. Texas Tech, Joey McGuire, 15-11. He gets a C+. McGuire's first 2 seasons exemplify what happens when expectations clash with reality. I never understood the high expectations for Texas Tech anyway last year. Everybody had high expectations. I did not see that. They did not meet that. This is Texas Tech. It's down in Lubbock. It's not Texas. It's not Texas A&M. It's not TCU, Houston, or Baylor. It's Texas Tech. USC, Lincoln Riley, 19-8. He gets a D, and I think that's fair because their defense is awful, and they really slid backwards this past year. And they got a lot of guys they're trying to replace. Lincoln Riley could be in trouble even at 19-8. Virginia, Tony Elliott, he went 6-16 over the last 2 years. He gets a C-, and that's a tough job. Virginia is a very tough job, and Elliott's trying to do big things there. Virginia Tech, Brent Pry went 10-14. He gets a B-. I'd probably give him like a C-, but again, Virginia Tech has fallen on hard times. That's a tough job. Washington, Kalen DeBoer, 25-3, gets an A+. And then Jake Dickert at Washington State went 15-16. He gets a C- or C. When you look at some of the guys in the group of 5, Joe Moorhead, size your ring up, Joe. He went 4-20. Now look, Akron's a tough place to coach, right? That's a tough ticket. But he gets a D. There are a few gigs in the country, just a few that are tougher than Akron. Joe Moorhead has firsthand knowledge of that difficulty and how hard it can be after a 2-10 season with the Zips. He'll get a 3rd season, but I can't imagine he'll see a 4th if things don't drastically improve. Colorado State, Jay Norvell went 8-16. He gets a C-. UConn's Jim Mora, 9-16. He gets a C. Mike McIntyre at FIU after 2 seasons, and 8-16. He gets a D. Georgia Southern, Clay Helton went 12-14 over the last 2 years, D+. And Timmy Chang, Hawaii, Golden Rainbows, Fighting Rainbows, whatever they are, 8-18. He gets a C. Appreciate our guest today. Appreciate Beeve hanging with us today. We'll be back in studio tomorrow. Remember, ketchup is king. Bacon's a delicacy. Aloha means goodbye. Have a great Thursday night. We'll see you tomorrow.